The Outlanders Journey. Tier 1, Level 0. Chapter 17. Laurel. You wake up in one of the armchairs next to the fireplace. Your head is throbbing. There's a ringing in your ears, and your vision blurs as you try to prop yourself up. A pang shoots through your right shoulder and neck. You blink rapidly to reorient yourself, and as your sight clears, the first thing you see is Professor Sano sitting across from you. His hands are folded, legs crossed, his foot bobbing impatiently. He somehow looks both apathetic and irate. Your stomach churns with virulent disgust as soon as you meet his gaze.
"So," he begins, "things took an unexpected turn for the both of us, it seems."
The knocked-over bookcase has been restored, upright against the wall, though all of the books are still scattered on the floor. Bach and Maya Lee are gone. Outside, it is completely dark.
"Tell me, what brought you back to the office at such a late hour?"
the professor continues.
"I thought you had plans for the evening."
"I left my keys in the library," you say. "I was coming back to grab them." It is in your best interest to remain neutral in front of him. He nods.
"Seems luck wasn't on your side, then."
"No," you say. "It wasn't." You point at the professor's ripped clothes, which you had torn in an effort to keep him from chasing after them. "I'm very sorry about what I did back there. I panicked. The entire situation caught me off guard."
"Of course,"
he says, unconvinced. "I had intended to notify you as soon as I could, but I couldn't get the sending stones to work. Again, I'm truly sorry." The professor holds his eyes on you, unblinking. You feel your mouth going dry. You avert your gaze, but you know he's still staring at you.
I've always believed myself to have a prescient mind, Laurel."
He taps his index fingers together, hands still folded.
"I've had my suspicions about you from the moment I saw you on that stage, but it seems I've made a discovery today that even I could never have predicted."
A mage hand floats up, dangling the amulet you gave to Maya Lee before tossing it onto your lap. "Oh, my amulet," you say as nonchalantly as you can. You touch your neck, trying to act surprised by its absence. "I didn't even realize."
"It's interesting, you see," he continues. "The sleep spell that I cast doesn't work on elves or half-elves. It is a peculiar magical effect that only works on humans and other creatures without elven blood. This is, fascinatingly enough, a small piece of evidence that corroborates the theory of our latent abilities. You, however, immediately dropped to the ground and lost consciousness. I was only targeting the furbolg, but you fell with him, and yet here you are, presenting yourself as a winsome, pure-blooded elf. No disguise spell, no altering magic, no magic items to change your appearance whatsoever. Riveting, I find it."
The seat beneath you seems to melt. A coldness washes over you. You dig your nails into your armrests.
There is something so captivating about changelings. I've wondered how many of you are hiding in our midst, impersonating us. I haven't heard about anything in years, but I always suspected your kind were still around. I must say the amulet is a clever way to hide yourselves, though it ironically draws more attention to a discerning eye such as my own.
It's like there is no air here. Your hands and feet go numb. Fuck, what do you do now? You still have to report him to the authorities somehow. Maybe with a different identity so they can't trace you. Maybe anonymously? Elithor, your family. Is everyone in trouble now?
"Elithor,"
the professor repeats, tapping his chin.
"Ah, I see. Your brother."
You grit your teeth. The professor is currently reading your thoughts. Without the amulet, you're now vulnerable to being seen and heard. Fuck, he knows already. He knows everything. He knows. Stop thinking. Stop. Your hands are shaking. You try to slip your amulet back on.
"No,"
he says. He points his wand at you.
"You are to keep it off."
Say something. Just say something, you fucking moron. Professor Sanos, I'm only trying to earn an honest living, sir. I ain't trying to cause trouble, I swear. He smirks, inhaling slowly as if basking in your desperation. It's silent for a long while before he finally says, "You do not have to see me as an enemy, Laurel. Only if you choose to vilify me will I take any necessary defensive action, though I'm sure you are aware enough to know that will not bode well for yourself or your brother." Sir, I believe there has been a misunderstanding between us, and I would like to clarify the situation before you take any brash missteps. You're floating, weightless. You can feel the pulsing in your head and fingertips and feet, your heart and your throat. Clarify what, sir? You seem to believe that I am engaging in illegal activities, and that I deserve to be thrown into a prison cell. I understand how you have reached such a conclusion after meeting Bach and Maya Lee. They must have bombarded you with many hyperbolic accounts, but I assure you, nothing I am doing is against the law. In fact, the authorities you wish to report me to are very aware of what is happening here. I have been nothing but fully transparent with law enforcement as well as the academy. Even my other employees, including Anon, know of what I do here. If you were to report anything, you would only expose yourself, and since I care for your future and well-being, I would rather you think carefully before you act on your impulses. Anon knows? The school knows? Is the professor bullshitting you? Should you call his bluff? You're not holding them in captivity? You say. Certainly not, he says, scoffing with incredulity. I am the legal guardian of both Bach and Maya Lee. As with all of my students and employees, I care deeply for them and I take care of them properly. What you witnessed earlier? Well, I suppose you intervened in the middle of an argument between myself and my children. It was not fully resolved when I left, but I assure you that everything is normal. Bach was bleeding. Maya Lee looked famished, and she told you she has regularly withheld food. Neither of them appeared or smelled like they had bathed in months. The smell alone. The desperate looks on their faces. You don't believe him. But what are you supposed to do here? What power do you have? The professor chuckles. I know you are unconvinced right now, but I believe you are a capable individual, and you tend to reach the right conclusions when provided the right evidence. That is what makes you a skilled researcher. He leans forward, planting his feet and pointing both index fingers at you. Let me add one more thing, should that help you. I am your firmest, most ardent supporter. Unlike every other faculty or board member of the Academy, I strongly advocate for the rights of non-elven individuals to have an equal opportunity in educating and honing their magical abilities. Individuals like you, like Bach, like Anon, like Maya Lee, all have untapped abilities that are categorically ignored as a result of a narrow-minded and traditionalist mindset amongst an ossified institution. To me, you are just as talented as any elf I have taught or employed, and if you are to continue working with me, I will expend every resource I have to help you realize your true potential. Is that clear? Cold sweat has been running down your neck and back. You open your mouth, attempting to speak, but you can't form any words. However, he continues, should you attempt to take my children from their lawful guardian, then I will use those very resources to inflict swift justice upon you. It will not bode well for you or your family. You swallow and stare at your feet. You tap your heel against the floor, listening for any signs that they might hear you. Can I ask just one question so I can have some understanding of what is happening? He nods. Certainly. Why do you keep them locked in a basement? How do you say you care for their well-being if they can't come outside? For their own protection, of course. They are wielders of the very wild magic we are trying to research. As you now understand, wild magic has a variety of unpredictable effects, some of which can be incredibly destructive. Maya Lee can set off such effects through the simple casting of a spell, and the result can be potentially lethal.
When Bach is thrown into an unrelenting rage, he, too, has the ability to bring forth an unpredictably chaotic magical energy. You are lucky that you were not killed during your encounter with those two. If they had escaped, it is unfathomable the degree of devastation they would have caused. Bach's mother, you see, personally handed him over to me. She gave me permission to take him with me, because she simply could not handle him. Maya Lee was exiled by her tribe, deigned to wander and survive on her own. Their biological parents, their people, are not searching for them. These two were unwanted, abandoned by the very forest they seek to return to. There is no home for them but here, you understand. But I gave them a home. I love them as my own children. Whatever myopic, self-satisfying assistance you may offer them will only result in their and many others' deaths.
You can still see the enervated looks on both of their faces. When you told them to keep going north until they reached the forest, you assumed they would be let in without issue. Are you just naive and stupid, or is the professor still lying? Either way, this is beyond anything you can do for them. You put your hands over your face, leaning forward, elbows on your knees.
You are a kind-hearted, altruistic person, says the professor. I can see this. I understand your pity for them. They are cursed with such abilities, not of their own volition. They are derided as monsters to everyone else. But I know them better than anyone. They are better off here, where they are appreciated and looked after, protected. Had they escaped, either they or some innocent, unwitting soul would have died. If I lose my son and my daughter, I will be broken.
But, you say, isn't it convenient that they have the same wild magic that you're researching for your own professional gain?
Why do you think I am researching wild magic in the first place? Yes, it is true that its properties, as I have observed in Maya Lee, can have beneficial effects on all elves. Yes, this is an unexplored field with many exciting opportunities, but, at least at the very beginning, my research in this area was motivated by a desire to cure Bach. He has been with me the longest. He is my inspiration, the guiding force behind everything I do. I am seeking to find a way for him to control such powers, so that he may one day walk free of his curse.
You continue to tap your heel, listening to the subtle hollow echo of the basement. Are you just an idiot? Is this what it takes to be a genius in the world of magical research? You want, more than anything, to see Elothor. You need him right now. How long has it been since the professor had cast the Detect Thoughts spell? A minute has probably already passed. Professor Senos' wand has been stowed, meaning he most likely did not cast it again. You are taking good care of them? You ask.
Certainly, as I always have.
You stare directly into Professor Senos' eyes. You don't know what to believe, but at least you know what to say for the time being. You nod. I know you've taken care of me and Anon as well, so I have no reason to doubt you. The professor narrows his eyes at you, and you see him reach into his sleeve for his wand again. But you're an actor. If you can do anything right now, it's to wheedle with your eyes. You believe him. You trust him with your life. He's the greatest person you've ever met. You can be in love with him if you will it. I won't say anything, you say for emphasis. If you forgive my transgressions, I would like to still work for you. You have been very good to me, and I believe in your work. If this is how I am to help Bach and Maya Lee, whom I've also grown to care for, then I will do so by supporting your research. He nods and smiles.
Good. That's all I needed to hear. Your contract for this job is still binding, as is your agreement of silence. However, your amulet, you will take it off around me. Do you understand?
You nod. Thank you. I appreciate that you have been so generous and supportive. I will do right by you.
Very good, says the professor. I'm glad things are remaining as they were. He gestures at the door. It is getting late. You must be exhausted.
A mage hand floats out of the library entrance, jingling your keys and dropping them on your lap. You stare at them. This whole mess because you forgot these rusty keys. Yes, you say. I'm sorry to keep you up as well.
I expect you will make it up with your good work ethic. Sleep well, Elise.
Your heart stops for an instant. Good night, sir.
Thank you. Good night.
You shoot up out of your seat and march stiffly to the exit. You step out, closing the door carefully behind you. It clicks. You slip your amulet back on. You approach the apartment, hands balled into fists. Your home is much farther in the distance than it's ever seemed. You pick up the pace, faster and faster, and soon you are sprinting. You reach the entrance, fumbling with the very keys you lost, tearing open the door, rushing up the stairs, bursting into your room, and slamming your door shut. You're panting, clutching your amulet. You shrink down, your back against the wall, fingers gripping your knees, until you notice the open window by your bed. You leap back up, pulling your curtains shut and locking the windows. You curl up in the corner of your bed and pull the covers over your head. All you can hear in your mind now is your brother's voice, taunting you that he was right all along. Your father's voice, warning you never to trust anyone else. Your mother's voice, imploring you not to stray too far from family. Everything is falling apart. Why do you always fuck up so badly? A knock on your door. You jump, nearly screaming, and you press your face into your pillow, plugging your ears with your fingers. A few seconds pass before another set of knocking. Hey, everything all right? I heard you running up the stairs in a hurry. Anon? All you can think about is how he knows about Bach and Maeli as well. What does he think of this situation? You shout back, "Don't worry about me, I'm all right," in as relaxed a tone as you can. Are you sure? Do you need anything? All you want right now is to be left alone, huddled in your little corner. The familiar little bubble you also created while you were a student, unable to find a safe and trustworthy confidant. You should eat something if you haven't had dinner yet. Wait a second. Maybe Anon can help. Maybe you can use him. If what the professor says about him is true, then you can't fully trust him, but he is also more knowledgeable about the situation here than you are, not to mention more capable as a spellcaster. Perhaps with Anon's help, you can reach Elothor. You need to speak to your brother as soon as possible to warn him about what you revealed. Perhaps Elothor might have some advice on the matter as well. You hate him, but he is a better alternative to your parents. You can't believe you have to go crawling back to him after the little speech you gave. You say. Hold on a second. You hop off your bed and collect yourself. You wipe away the cold sweat on your brow, peeling the damp clothes off your skin, and you shuffle towards the door. Evening, Anon, you say as you open it. Oh gods, says Anon. You look awfully pale. Are you sure you're okay? Your heart skips a beat to the word pale. I'm sorry? You look ill. Did you catch something? Oh, no. Maybe you can lean into this haggard appearance. I actually just received news that my grandmother might pass away sometime soon, as early as tomorrow morning. Anon puts a hand to his chest. Up close, he has the characteristically large eyes and button nose of a gnome. Oh no! I'm so sorry. I was rushing back to try and find my sending stone so I can talk to her one last time, but I can't find it anywhere. It helps that your room is already so littered with clothes and books and papers, so it sells the idea that you have been searching everywhere. Do you want me to help you look? Asks Anon. You put your hand over your forehead. No, I don't think it's here. I remembered I brought it home because my father wanted to use it. Anon touches your arm, gazing up at you, eyes full of tears. I lost my grandfather a couple years before I moved here. I'm so sorry to hear that. He was the one who taught me everything I know, including magic. I understand what you're going through. If you need anything from me, I'm more than happy to help. Thank you, Anon. I appreciate it. He truly is a considerate soul. It seems for him, coming here was an opportunity to better his life. He shared with you before that he has been financially supporting his family's farm ever since he started working for the professor. Actually, says Anon, you said you want to cast sending on your grandmother, right? You nod. Anon scratches his head. I have been scribing a sending scroll for practice, and I am close to completing it. If I work on it tonight, I can finish by morning. Is that soon enough for you? Oh, I don't want to bother you. I know scribing spells can take weeks, and it's so expensive. You don't have to do this for me. It's no problem at all. Professor Sanos actually provides me the ink and paper, since he's been training me to scribe spells. I give him the scrolls that end up usable, but any leftovers are for me to use as practice. Are you not busy, though? Nothing is as important as your grandmother right now, Laurel. You smile. Anon, you are a true friend. You lean forward and hug him. I'll take care of our cleaning duties for the next 2 months. Anon laughs. You don't have to do that. I insist. All right, but you have to promise me you'll let me know if she makes it, okay? I will. Anon rushes across the hall to his room, which has an identical layout to yours, except much tidier. All along his bookshelves are scrolls organized alphabetically with labels. On his desk are multiple open textbooks, with ink stains on the floor and tabletop. He hops up onto his chair. His legs don't quite reach the floor, so he rests his feet on a stack of books. He pulls out a drawer full of ink bottles and takes out his quill, made with a vibrantly orange feather. I'll make us some dinner, you say. Anon nods. I'll try to get this done as soon as I can. You find some carrots and leftover chicken soup in the icebox on the communal shelf. You dice the vegetables and toss them into a small pot, boiling them in the rich broth. You deliver a bowl to Anon, who graciously accepts it with both hands. He tips it to his mouth, savoring the broth with his eyes closed. He sighs with a smile. That's delicious, he says. This is the least I can do. You pull up a chair next to his desk, spooning a piece of carrot. He shakes his head. I know you would do the same for anyone as well. You set your bowl in your lap. Oh, Anon, I wanted to ask you something. Yes? I was wondering if you know what's down in the basement of Professor Sanos' office. He swallows a big gulp of the soup. He lowers his bowl, furrowing his brow at you. What do you mean? Well, just today, I thought I heard a strange noise. On my way home, I realized I left my keys in the office, and as I went in to retrieve them, there was a thumping sound from below the floors. People have always talked about there being a basement, but no one has confirmed anything with me. Would you happen to know? Anon blinks, attempting to feign ignorance, but you catch it. The slightest air of both fear and remorse from a flicker of his eyes. He peers down, his mouth hanging open for just a moment. He does know. And not only does he know, but he feels shame that he knows. Shame that he passively condones the professor's actions. He shakes his head. I wish I did, Laurel, but I think it might just be used as a storage space. Perhaps you heard some books toppling over. You nod solemnly. I was so upset and paranoid about my grandmother's situation that I thought the sound might have been her ghost. Anon tilts his head sympathetically. He squeezes your arm. I will get this done for you if it takes me all night, Laurel. Thank you so much. Let me get out of your way. I don't want to disturb you any longer. You exit his room, closing his door behind him, and you eat by yourself in bed. After the meal, your nerves finally calm a bit, and you gain a new sense of clarity. Anon was the confirmation you needed. What's happening is reprehensible, and it's likely that people like you and Anon have no power to stop him. What you need to do now is to formulate some kind of plan to get out of here. On your way home from the cafe, the professor had just left the office, heading off into the city, and yet he managed to make it home within minutes of Bach and Maya Lee's initial escape. There must have been an alarm spell that alerted him while he was still close. He had also come not from the front door, but from some secret room behind yet another bookshelf. He may have his own teleportation circle. It's not surprising for a mage of his caliber to make the house full of secret rooms and magical traps. Every second you spend in his office, and perhaps even in your current room, is dangerous for you. You curl up in your bed again, running your mind through every possibility you can come up with. Run away alone with the savings you have? Run away with Bach and Maya Lee and accidentally unleash some wild magic catastrophe out in the open? Does your leaving in any manner put Elithor and your family at risk? What do you prioritize here? Yourself? Bach and Maya Lee? Or your family? Eventually, even as your thoughts race, you drift off to sleep, the exhaustion overtaking you. And in your lucid dream, you are holding a knife in your hands, standing over the kitchen sink, ready to stab your heart in search of a soul underneath. And you hear your brother call out to you. He appears next to you and grabs you by the wrists. He knows you better than anyone else, and he quietly takes the knife out of your hands, touching your gushing wound and healing it with his magic. He places your hand over his heart and asks you if you think he has a soul. "I do," you say. "We are one and the same," he says, his face reverting back to his true changeling form, white pupils and sickly pale skin. "We are of the same nature and flesh and blood and curse. We are bound to this fate forever." You awaken to knocking on your door. It's still dark outside. You open it to find a weary-looking Anon, with ink smudged all over his fingers and across his cheek. He smiles and hands you the completed scroll. On it is the most intricately designed circular glyph you've ever seen, even more impressive given that he had to rush. It is perfectly symmetrical, with impeccably straight lines and the tiniest inscriptions. You squint at it, and though you can understand the gist of it, you don't quite comprehend huge swaths of the ancient Elvish code. You truly see now the vast chasm between your meager arcane knowledge and his. "Thank you so much," you say. You hug him tightly. "Of course. But don't let me hold you any longer. You need to contact your grandmother." You nod. "I'll let you know how she is doing. Get some sleep." Anon smiles again. He begins to turn and head back into his room. "Oh, Anon," you say. "Yes?" "I truly appreciate everything you did for me, but I was wondering if you could also keep this between us for now. I don't know that many other people here, and even though I deeply admire the professor, I don't think he would truly understand." "Oh? Why is that?" "I suspect most people who are part of the academy come from a wealthy enough family to easily afford the healing services at the temples, but my family doesn't have those means. My grandmother has been placed in the back of all of the wait lists, and she doesn't have any priority due to her age." Anon nods. "I understand. I'll keep this between us." "Thank you," you say. "I am immensely in your debt." You say your goodnights to one another, and you close the door behind you. You're still exhausted, but you're trying your best to read through the scroll as thoroughly as you can. You understand it, not in the way you were taught in school, but through the recognition of how your brother used to cast it in front of you. You sit cross-legged on your bed. You wait, watching out of your window, until the first sign of light seeps through. Still you wait, until eventually you spot Senos walking past the office, on his way back to the city. Before you cast this spell, you need him far away. Far, far away. On your bed, you straighten your back, the scroll unrolled, displaying itself in front of you. You can already hear Elithor's response should he learn of this piece of news. The shame and humiliation and panic that this would cause the whole family. Your brother knows you, and you know him. He knows what to do, and it's not pathetic for you to rely on him. He probably will want to help. But as the hours pass into noon and then early afternoon, you can't bring yourself to do it. Why do you still resent your brother so much? If he is of the same flesh and blood as you, then why do you want nothing more than to be torn away from him? This spell might not even work in the first place. All of this hinges on you actually casting Sending successfully. You wait another hour, swinging back and forth between your options. If Maya Lee and Bach both know how to use magic, then they must have some ability to sense it. Detect Magic is a relatively basic spell, and any enchanted glyphs and contraptions will give off a glowing aura to those who can see magic. If they can find and disable these traps, then maybe they can leave while the professor is away. Maybe it's better for you to cast Sending on one of them, so that they know what to do. Everything in your instincts is telling you to help them. Help them instead. Save them. Fuck it. Fuck Xenos. Fuck your own life. You muster up all of your courage, all of your confidence. You close your eyes, picturing the flow of magic in your hands and through your lips. You may not be a wizard anymore, but you are still a mage of sorts. You may not have learned to be a proper spellcaster, but that is because you don't study magic. You command it. When you were a child, you intrinsically knew that spells were to be ruled over, not understood. You place your hands on the scroll and say, I am sending a message to Bach. This is not the proper incantation, but it is how your brother used to cast it. It was as if he was directing the spell to obey him. And now, you will use his own technique to defy him. The sigil begins to glow. You lift your hands up to your chest and close them into fists, your right hand in front of your left. You extend your right hand outward, like you're opening a communication channel out of thin air. The spell scroll rises up and shatters like glass into millions of fragments, shooting out a nearly invisible beam in the direction of the office, disappearing within a split second, and you sense the brief mental link to Bach.